door shut. If they want to stand in the hallway, they're not going to listen in.
I'd like to call the Macomb City Council to order, please. If you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Council. Without objection, I'd like to call your attention to a couple of recent passings in our community. We'd like to take a moment here after I read some information about Mr. Harold Boyd, who is also known as Reverend Harold Boyd, and Mr. Dick Froing, both recently passed, both graduates of Western Illinois University, both veterans. Mr. Boyd served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam and retired with the rank of major. Mr. Boyd spent a decade and a half as an emergency medical technician, so if any of you needed his services through the McDonough District Hospital, you would have known what a gentleman and caregiver he was. He also worked for the United States Postal Service, retiring from there in 2007, I apologize. Harold was also very active in volunteer organizations here in the community and a very active Christian ministry as an ordained minister. Mr. Froing, as stated, was a veteran of the Korean conflict and served in the Navy. He taught school. Many of you in this room may have had the opportunity to know Mr. Froing as a teacher for over 35 years. He was active in a couple of service clubs, and one being the charter member of the Lions Club here in Macomb. And he also served the city as a member of the Fire and Police Commission for over a decade. So in their memory, we'd offer a moment of silence. Thank you. If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Justin Shu,
Here.
John Vajezi, Byron Shabazz,
Present.
Dave Dorset,
Present.
Ashley Katz, Don Wynn,
Here.
Dennis Moon.
Here.
We have 5 present.
We have a quorum. Thank you. I'd now ask the city clerk, if she would get ready, I should say, because we're going to ask the chief to come up and give some information regarding 2 of our most recent firefighters. Chief Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'm going to introduce our 2 newest firefighters here. We have Nathaniel Sejan and Timothy Teslika. They started on August 19th. They attended the 7-week Fall Fire Academy at University of Illinois Fire Service Institute, and they graduated on October 25th. Each of them scored very high in their academics, and each of the weekly reports were outstanding. So I think we've got 2 very good candidates there. Following that, they completed 3 more weeks of additional training that included fire service vehicle operator, vehicle machinery operations, and hazmat operations, and they were assigned to their shifts on November 19th. Nate comes to us from Manuka, Illinois, and he's a May 2024 graduate from WIU with a degree in fire science. He's accompanied tonight by his parents, Brian and Jennifer, sister Catherine, and his girlfriend, Allie. Tim is a Macomb native and is a 2014 graduate from Illinois College with a degree in communications, which I think if you ask his academy mates, probably was used very well. He's a 2nd-generation Macomb firefighter. His dad, Steve Teska, served as a lieutenant on the fire department. So, Tim is accompanied by his wife, Alicia, his sons, Braden, Macomb, and Liam, his mom, Mary Helen, and stepdad, Terry Sparrow, and dad, Steve, and stepmom, Carla Teska, and his sister, Michelle. I want to thank the family and friends that have made it tonight. Your show of support tonight and throughout their careers will be a key to their success. So welcome to the MFD family.
All righty. And I've just doubled down on what the chief just said, knowing firsthand how important a supportive family network at home is in being a public servant. So thank you for your commitment with them to the city. Madam Clerk, we'd ask you to swear in our newest firefighters, please.
Have you both raise your right hand. Okay, firefighters Nathaniel Sishon and Timothy Teslika. Having been appointed by the Board of the Fire and Police Commissioners of the City of Macomb to the position of firefighter in the Macomb Fire Department in the City of Macomb in the Illinois County of McDonough, do you solemnly swear and affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of firefighter according to the best of your ability? Okay, all right, awesome. Here we go. And there's two of them, honey, okay, so you get one for yourself. That's a signature, are you sure?
I can do another one.
Okay.
This one's better. There we go.
Okay, let me do that. It's the 16th.
I was nervous.
You could be. Okay, and that is for you.
Thank you.
All right? Here you go, Tim.
Thank you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me give you this one.
Not clear. It's hard to do Timothy Tesla.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you very much.
Awesome,
Appreciate it.
thanks. I'm getting this. No.
Now, you all are welcome to stay. We do have the audit report and last item of the evening.
Look at him leave.
Say something. I think they'd have sat there if you hadn't said something.
That'll clear a room.
Sure know how to clear a room.
Yeah.
Don't, s-
You come on down.
Sign up, sign up, sign up.
We'll get you some paperwork.
get in there.
We'll get you some paperwork.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Steve.
Doesn't live in the city, does he?
I got it ready.
Okay.
Yeah, what are you doing? Lock the door.
Pay attention.
Township made us do it.
They don't like us anyways.
The second wave. The second wave.
Yeah.
Be careful, you'll be on TV.
All righty. If we could ask the gentleman to remove this hat, please, I'd appreciate it. Citizens wishing to address the City Council on matters germane to the agenda of tonight's meeting will be limited to 3 minutes and are asked to be brief and concise in making their remarks. Comments submitted by mail or email will not be read aloud, but a copy will be provided to each member of the council and made a part of the minutes of this meeting. Does anyone wish to speak to the council in the public comment section of tonight's meeting? Mr. Waller. Sure.
I don't know if I can do 3 minutes, Mike, though. I have got a lot of hot air.
You will, I promise.
Well, it's good. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak again in front of you guys. I'm Brian Waller. I do live on East 1000th Street, close to the proposed solar facility. That's what we're going to be talking about. I don't know how you guys know that, but I'm sure. The Planning Commission stated that this was an ideal location for this facility because it was a non-residential area. Nothing could be further than the truth. The area, with the exception of the east tract, is zoned agriculture. However, Over the last 35-plus years, several homes have been built. If you've not driven down East 1000th Street, I would encourage you to do so and see what we're talking about as far as a rural neighborhood. There are 45 homes located on East 1000th. Several are in very close proximity to the facility. There's several just dotted right in a row. This is a residential area. We're saying it's, a non-residential area. That couldn't be further from the truth. Those of us that built or bought homes to be in the country are now going to have to drive by or technically through, because we're looking at both sides of the road, the facility every day as we commute to and from work. Those of us that, those of us who are in close proximity will have to deal with the constant vision and noise pollution of an industrial facility that is invading our quiet country life that we bought and paid for. I mean, face it, there's nothing attractive about a solar facility. You can't pretty it up. Our concerns are the plan does not call for visual barriers. We're working on that, though. Our green space we talk about, what's this green space consist of? Who will maintain the green space to keep it attractive? How will they keep up the plants alive with no water? There's no water to that site. I don't know how we're going to keep our bushes and our grass growing. I believe the company is going to throw in some vegetation as required by the original agreement and then quietly disappear, leaving the green space either to die off or become an overgrown weed patch. I think we're just being told what we want to hear to get this thing railroaded through. Sorry. We've had some discussions about sound from the inverters. Sound in the country travels a lot farther. If your neighbor lives 150 yards away, you still can't talk about them on your front porch. They'll hear you. Sound from an inverter is like a frequency-driven sound, and it will be very irritating. We're going to listen to that thrumming all the time from those inverters. Long-term effects, will the site be properly reclaimed? How are the panels going to be disposed of when they're full of toxic chemicals? And will the farm ground ever be properly restored back to ag as what it should be? We can debate the viability of solar power, okay? But I believe that any economic impact this project may have does not begin to outweigh the infringement on the residents' emotional and financial rights. There's several other properties in close proximity to the proposed location that would have been minimal impact on the residents. If Macomb has a desire to see the solar facilities built, please choose an alternate location to this one that will not affect so many people. This is not the right
3 minutes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please say no to the special use permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, and please don't take this out of my 3 minutes. I do have a petition signed by 49 residents on East 1000th or on roads that border that. May I present those?
You're happy to give those to the clerk, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathy Waller. I also live on East 1000th. I think I'd be less than a quarter mile from the proposed solar facility. There's so many things wrong with this, I scarcely know where to begin. I'd like to make 2 points that are actually conversations for another day, but I feel I need to comment on them. One, the only thing green about solar is government money lining someone's pockets. 2, we still do not believe due diligence was followed during this process, but that's for another time. Although East 1000th Street is zoned agriculture on the west side, it is primarily a residential setting. There are 45 homes on East 1000th, and many more homeowners use East 1000th to get to their homes on adjoining roads. We have been told this is a good location for this project. Nothing could be further from the truth. None of us want to drive through an industrial power plant every time we leave our homes or return to our homes. This large-scale industrial power plant will devalue our homes and will change our quality of life. None of the property owners will see any value from this facility. If Macomb is so determined to build up to 8 solar facilities in and around this town, then we maintain there are better locations in which to do so. We have had several meetings with the solar representative and city officials and remain unconvinced that a proper visual barrier will be erected and maintained. The sheer logistics of maintaining the proposed green spaces is virtually an impossibility. Buzz has given us a proposal that shows 1,720 linear feet of a 15-foot wide vegetative barrier on the west side of the road and a 1,370 linear feet wide barrier, 15-foot wide barrier, on the east side. That is 46,350 square feet of green space. It will be a task of Herculean proportions to maintain that amount of green space. We do not believe that it will be done. The city has assured us that they will simply revoke the special use permit if these conditions are not met, but we as homeowners have no confidence in this and have no recourse if they are not. It is completely irresponsible to plow under good farm ground to build an industrial power plant. This land will never be properly reclaimed. These panels are labeled as green energy, but in reality, they harbor a cocktail of toxic chemicals. These sprawling arrays can affect surface temperatures and emit harmful electromagnetic fields. We are concerned with the potential harmful effects to our health, water quality, and soil fertility. They will also absolutely disrupt local ecosystems and displace wildlife. Another main concern is the noise pollution during construction and maintenance of this solar plant. Inverter stations convert the generated DC energy into available AC electricity. The stations can emit a constant humming noise, which is very disruptive. If I have to listen to this for the next 20 years, would you please indulge me for the remainder of my time?
Thank you, Ms. Waller.
Is that my 3 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Shoot, I was going to let that go longer.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to turn it off, I promise.
No problem.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Terry Litchfield. I'm actually on the board for the Chalmers Township that this parcel of land lies in. I was very surprised about this whole project because I would have thought it would have been nice if we would have been notified out of it as far as the Chalmers Township Board. I feel like we're ramrodding this through. Kind of reminds me of the CO2 pipeline that we had fought the last couple of years of the county. I would ask for you to please table this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Litchfield. Anyone else?
My name is Kathy Chenoweth. I live at 11370 East 1000th Street. I will be living right next to this. I do not have any animals, but I preferably like to live out in the country where it's peaceful. That's not peaceful to me. My kids, my daughter and her husband is planning on having children and everything. I would love them to come out and hang out and spoil them to death. But I don't want them to listen to this every time they walk or pull in our driveway. What makes me mad is, I can't get the thing, okay. What makes me mad is I didn't even know anything about the meeting. If I knew about the meeting, I would have been at the meeting. But it was not in the paper, it wasn't on social media, it wasn't on Facebook or nothing. It just makes me think that somebody's trying to screw us. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that you guys don't pass this, because if you pass it and everything, we're moving out of McDonough County. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Does my time start as soon as I start talking?
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have to address my name?
No.
Countless cities and rural communities see the need for solar and have established laws and guidelines governing rural placement. These regulations, at a minimum, stipulate what is needed in order to mitigate landowners' concerns on the noise, quality of life, and ecological concerns. We feel as though the hurried 21-day timeline to vote on this project is not in good faith. We are looking at the ramifications and negative repercussions of a 40-year lease of this solar farm and the overall health and well-being of the rural community along East 1000th Street, whose only fault in this matter is that their homes lie in the incorporated 1.5-mile buffer zone around the city. We only ask that more time be taken to talk through this and in good faith as neighbors. On the city website regarding special use permits for which this project is being brought forth, special use requires close examination, site preview, individual regulation, notification of surrounding property owners. Surrounding property owners on East 1000th Street were not notified, only those within the city's 250-foot rule. Again, the city agreed that this distance may need to change for rural areas moving forward, but this does not help us now. In looking at the placement of larger solar, the World Health Organization says you should live 1,640 square feet from large solar farms. The city says 50 feet. In looking at the Macomb Municipal Code standards for special use permits, which project is seeking to secure, the special use permit criteria states the Planning Commission and the City Council shall consider certain criteria when making determination on special use applications. This includes a no nuisance clause, no undue adverse impact clause, among other things. And this no nuisance clause states that the proposed use and development not create any public nuisance by reason of noise, smoke, odors, etc. Let us take pause to look at some of the realities on noise and rural placement of large-scale solar. Buzz has confirmed from the solar company that noise output would be 40 to 60 decibels. According to a pioneering environmental consultancy firm, the constant hum of inverters and transformers, especially in quiet rural areas, can be particularly noticeable. Therefore, it is essential to balance the benefits of renewable energy with the need to protect local communities from potential disturbances. In total, in the rendering provided for this project, there are 32 inverters spread across both sides of the road that will create this low humming electrical noise all day long. Similar cases are being reported across the country. In Connecticut, a local paper reported a large-scale solar farm similar to what is being proposed. Nearby residents have lived with the low-impact hum and severely impacted their quality of life, and the local community government has tried with over a year to mitigate the continual noise through reaching out to the company who installed it, and they have had no success. The adverse effects on sound levels emitted in rural settings is different than within the city, as sound travels longer distances in large open areas that have no vegetative cover for half the year because it's farmland. There are less ambient noises to impediments to sound waves, making the noise travel a greater distance. Buzz has modified the plan according to a wider view shed, because people don't want to look at it, pushing the solar panels closer together, which according to research amplifies the sound.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'll try not to talk fast, Mike. Is that on?
You're eating up time.
I didn't talk till I was 4, and my dad said that I haven't stopped talking since, so I'll try to do this within 3-minute time limit. My name's Monty Lauderman. I've resided at 10985 East 1000th Street for over 32 years. Obviously, this is a heated matter on this proposed solar farm. I would like each of you here this evening and the City Council to consider incorporate Rotary's 4-way test into their decision regarding the proposal of a large-scale solar farm on the east side of 1000th Street and the issuance of a special use permit for the land on the west side of 1000th Street. That's 2 different properties, and for the sole purpose of building solar farms on both. The 4-way test is as follows. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all considered and affected? Is it beneficial to all involved and those affected? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? I believe you can say yes to each one of these. Say no to each one of these, the points that I just mentioned. My speech tonight has changed, so to speak, and I do not want to double up with those that have already spoke here this evening. So I'm just going to insert into the record that while the municipal code does not specify criteria to evaluate special use or change of zoning districts, the following points should be taken into account when evaluating the proposed planning process. Ordinance purposes, nuisance, the undue adverse impact, interference surrounding development, adequate public facilities, no traffic congestion, no destruction of significant figures, and compliance with standards. I say that because I've got printed off of the website all the agendas from the past meetings of the Planning Committee since May. In May, it was 20 pages on the agenda dealing with 2 different properties. Every meeting since then, it was 1 page. Every page had a PIN number and a address. Dennis Moon, do you know the PIN number to your real estate where you live?
Mr. Louderman, there's no dialogue in the public comment.
Sorry. My fault.
All right.
The agenda for November 20th and December 3rd had a PIN number only, no address. Tonight, you're going to be voting to act on this for next Monday. And I would ask that you take very serious input and research in making your decision. In belief that we have proven and made legitimate concerns from the city alderman to cast a no vote in regards to both of these proposed sites, and at the very least that this project should be tabled. A no vote would equate to acknowledging that there are better locations for this project and or more research needs to happen and be completed before a decision is made by the city council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Louderman. Anyone else?
Hey, good evening, Council. My name is Buzz Becker. I'm here on behalf of the solar applicant tonight. Just wanted to share a little quick update on some of the dialogue we've had between last time we were here. Met with many of the concerned citizens who spoke here tonight a couple times since our last meeting. I feel like we've identified some view shed mitigation that would be a big improvement over our previous plan, and candidly would be above and beyond what just about any other solar project in Illinois shows. And hopefully, even if there is concern about the location, that the applicant and our landowner here tonight, Johnny McKee, have shown a willingness to engage in that dialogue and make it as acceptable as possible. So I appreciate your consideration for us tonight.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Last call. Alrighty, thank you for all those of you that spoke. We appreciate the input. I'd entertain a motion to sit as the township board.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to sit as the township board. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Inman.
Aye.
Shu.
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Board, before you is a consent agenda. It includes claims and accounts for the month of November, then the supervisor's report for the month of December, as well as the assessor's report. Motion is in order.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shu.
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. There is no old business this evening. Under new business, item number 1, the annual township tax levy ordinance number 177. You have a copy of that. I believe it's attached to your packet. There's a tree or two killed there. Madam City Attorney, would you want to go over that? Township Attorney, thank you.
Thank you. The ordinance does provide for the aggregate sum of $350,356 to be raised by taxation and levied on all taxable property in the township. That amount would be allocated between the General Town Fund, the General Assistance Fund, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, the Liability Insurance Fund, Social Security and Medicare Fund, and the Certified Public Accountant Annual Audit Fund as set forth in the ordinance.
Thank you. We didn't entertain a motion to adopt.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the levy ordinance. Any discussion? Alderman Dorset.
As is my longstanding practice, I will be voting against this. It has no bearing on the performance of our staff. I simply believe that an coterminous township should be abolished and absorbed by the city.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
No.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Shu.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. There is no other new business. Do either the assessor or the township supervisor have any comments they want to make? All righty. We'd entertain a motion to resume as the city council.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to resume as the city council. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Shu.
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And as the city council, there's a consent agenda in front of you, Alderman, and we'd entertain a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt is presented. Second.
It's moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Wynn,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Under unfinished business, item number 1, consideration of an ordinance to provide for the levy and collection of taxes for the year 2024 payable in 2025 for the city of Macomb, McDonough County, Illinois. This will be second reading.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I have the right. Okay. Sorry. The city of Macomb has adopted the municipal budgeting process. They have previously adopted the budget ordinance in ordinance number 24-14. We have budgeted for the fiscal year commencing May 1st, 2024 and ending April 30th, 2025, the estimated expenses and expenditures. The city would require to be levied and collected the sum of $3,081,800 as the levied amount. If adopted, the ordinance does provide that the total amount of appropriations for all corporate purposes would be collected from the tax levy for the fiscal year May 1st, 2024 and ending April 30th, 2025. The amount of the levy would be $3,081,800, and that would be allocated among the general corporate fund, firefighters pension fund not excluded from PTEL, the firefighters pension fund excluded from PTEL, Police Officers Pension Fund, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, FICA Medicare Fund, Fire Protection Tax Fund, Police Protection Tax Fund, and the Insurance and Torts Judgments Fund in the amounts set forth in the ordinance. The clerk would be authorized and directed to certify a copy of the ordinance to the county clerk on or before the last Tuesday in December 2024.
Thank you. That'll stand as second reading. Motion is in order.
Move to adopt the ordinance to provide for levy and collection of taxes for year 2024, payable 2025 for City of Macomb.
Second.
Moved and second to adopt the ordinance. Any discussion? I just add that in this fiscal year, we have a $30+ million total all-in city budget. This represents about 10% of what we need to operate the city. That's coming directly from property taxes, just perspective. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 2, consideration of an ordinance to abate the direct annual tax levied for 2024 to pay the annual debt service on $2,275,000 in general obligation refunding bonds, also known as Waterworks Alternate Revenue Source, Series 2016, and $4,010,000 in general obligation refunding bonds, also known as Infrastructure Projects Alternate Revenue Source, Series 2020. This will be second reading.
Thank you. On August 1st, 2016, City Council adopted the 2016 bond ordinance. On January 21st, 2020, Council adopted the 2020 bond ordinance. The city did issue a principal amount of $2,275,000 of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2016, and $4,010,000 of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2020. The pledged revenues collected in 2024 and deposited are sufficient to pay the debt service on each of those series bonds. The pledged taxes are not required to pay the debt service on those series. Council would find and determine that the pledged taxes are not required for payment of the 2024 debt service on either the 2016 or the 2020 series bonds and are not required to be levied and collected and would therefore be abated. Based on those findings, the entire direct annual tax provided for and previously levied pursuant to those bond ordinances are hereby abated for the year 2024. The city clerk would file a certified copy with the county clerk for McDonough County, and it would be the duty of the county clerk to abate those taxes as previously levied.
Thank you. That'll stand as second reading. Motion is in order.
Move to adopt as published.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance to abate those taxes. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 3, consideration of an ordinance to create a Class SE special event liquor license for St. Paul School's annual trivia night event. This will be second reading.
Thank you. St. Paul School has filed an application requesting a special event liquor license for its Trivia Night event to be held at 322 West Washington Street in the city of Macomb on February 1st, 2025, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. Information about the event was previously provided during a meeting held on December 2nd. St. Paul School is a special event retailer, as that term is defined in our code, and this is an annual event for the city, or for the community rather, in the city of Macomb. If adopted, the ordinance does provide that a special event Class C liquor license would be created for St. Paul School's Trivia Night to be held at 322 West Washington Street here in Macomb on February 1st, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Thank you. That'll stand as second reading. A motion is in order.
Move to adopt as published.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the ordinance to create the license. Any discussion? This is the 20th annual, is that right? 25th. Okay, notable. And also note for the record that the representative regarding the petition is present in chambers this evening. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Shu.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. There is no other unfinished business this evening. Under new business, item number 1, discussion on an ordinance authorizing the special use permit to allow large-scale solar in an Ag 1 agricultural zoning district and parcel within Section 3 of Chalmers Township in McDonough County, Illinois. This ordinance had first reading at last week's committee meeting. And Ms. Lambert, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I know we did do some discussion on this last week in terms of the application and process, and we did have Buzz from Pivot Energy do a presentation regarding what this project would look like. Just a few updates from our last discussion to where things are now. We have met with some of the citizens that spoke here this evening in regards to what that special use permit would look like with conditions. So we talked about the vegetative buffer, increasing that based on the view shed, as well as the fencing and the setbacks on that. So again, discussing kind of where could we set things to go above our code to be able to meet those requirements. And one thing I also want to discuss, just because I know it was mentioned in terms of the maintaining of the vegetative buffer, again, with it being within the city of Macomb, that's something that our code enforcement would be able to follow through with. In terms of how they would water it, that's, again, not something we ask for our process. That's something that would be in terms of the responsibility of the property owner. But again, if that's not followed, that's then when code enforcement comes into place with through the Office of Community Development. We also have Buzz here this evening if you have any specific questions regarding the project itself or myself in terms of the process or the special use permit.
Thank you. Any of the aldermen have any questions for Ms. Lambert? Ms. Lambert, what was the notification process for this particular? It was differed from no other. We followed the council or the city's policy on notification. Is that correct?
Correct. So for how a special use permit works, what happens is any resident within our zoning area is to fill out an application, and once the department receives that application, we need to do a public notification. We do use our local newspaper, the Community News Brief, for that. There is a buffer that's stated within our code of a 250-foot that we need to notify by mail, and then we do a sign placement on the property, which all 3 of those were met.
Okay.
And again, the original date of this meeting was 11/20, but due to not having quorum that evening, we did reschedule it to the best of our ability based on other meetings we also had to December 3rd.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And do you know anything about an address assigned to this parcel?
So on the application, there was no address on the application, just the PIN. And so when I was on GIS, again, because it's not within the city of Macomb limits, it's on the outside, just the buffer, it just lists the PIN. So that's where I listed.
Okay. And I don't believe there's any record of address for this parcel listed.
That's correct. I did not locate any address either.
Correct.
Okay,
So
thank
based
you.
on the information that we had to do the publication, we always use with what the information we can go off of.
Thank you. Alderman Dorsey.
So, Director Lambert, counting the meeting today, how many meetings have Pivot Energy made themselves available for with the homeowners?
So so we were able to meet three meetings in person. We did have the planning commission, as well as our city council, our committee of the whole meeting last week, where we stayed after to speak with residents, and then last Friday via Zoom, and then so 3 in person, 1 Zoom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, we were all present in person. Mr. Becker made himself available by Zoom on Friday.
Correct. Just because, again, the last minute notice on that.
Thank you. Alderman Shute.
And you can tell me to wait for the next one, but can you speak to the time constraints and why Committee of the Whole would need the power to act next week?
Yes, so one thing that was requested within this application was to get this, so the application was submitted at the end of October, and to be able to do our public notification, we met on the Committee of the Whole instead of City Council to, by request of the applicant, to meet before the end, to make a vote by the end of the year.
Any other discussion?
You
Alderman-
look perplexed. Can I add to that,
Sure.
Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. So originally, we were scheduled to have Planning Commission November 20th. We did, in fact, convene that meeting, but we did not have quorums, so no business could be conducted. We adjourned that meeting to the December 3rd date. That was the next available date, and actually, that wasn't even a normal night for Planning Commission, and so that pushed back the timeline. Had we been able to meet on November 20th, this would have been a traditional cycle: first reading at council, discussion at Committee of the Whole, second reading at council. So that having to adjourn due to quorum issues is what made this a little different than normal. But we wanted to make sure we still had the same 3-meeting process.
Sure, understood, thank you. And is the desire to have it by the first of the year just a desire? Is it tied to any of the plans that need to be, does the decision have to be made by the first of the year is my question.
That would have to be answered by Pivot.
We would still, I guess I should come up, huh? Yeah, we'd still be interested in developing the project if the vote was in the new year. Yeah, but it would be our preference in this year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Nguyen.
I guess this would be to Buzz. Was there any discussion on this noise situation before we heard it tonight?
So it did come up in some of the meetings, concerns for folks that have not had a ton of experience with solar. I know City Council has approved many of these and have looked at some of the equipment that makes noise and kind of what that looks like from distances. I know in some jurisdictions, some counties or cities that permit this project, they like to have a shall not exceed a certain amount of decibels at a property line, just to ensure that, like, hey, we can tell you what the science is behind our equipment, but if you want that protective measure beyond the applicant, their good faith word, that's something we'd be open to if there's a certain decibel level. But no, I mean, if you look at the site plan, so the thing that has come up is the inverters. Inverters are the transformers, and that's in the middle of the site plan. And so if we look at, I mean, it's hundreds of feet even to get to our property line, and just inevitably, yeah, sure, it is in the country, of course, but inevitably that sound is just going to decrease. And so as we get hundreds of feet to the closest residence, we really don't anticipate much issue. In my understanding, I think this was corroborated at the Planning Commission, or maybe it was at the first council meeting, that there's an existing solar project that backs up into some residential houses, and that there have been no noise complaints from that solar project. It's not a Pivot project, but another solar project, and there have been no noise complaints to the city from that project.
Okay. Alderman Shabazz.
I'm interested in knowing, have you done any research or have you had, do you know of the health effects, like cancer rates or like any serious problems from these? Because I know I've heard that. I'd say that I've heard that before, but sure. I'm asking you professionally and the projects you've done looking over a period of time, have you had any experiences with that?
No, and in fact, we can provide that to council since the decision is not going to be made tonight. Independent research that looks into that. One of the things that's interesting, while solar is certainly growing in Illinois over the past several years, I mean, these have been in rooftops in the States for decades now. You have it like it's literally on top of people's roofs, and you just don't see, we talk about, you hear EMFs. Well, the amount of emission that it gets beyond about 3 feet from that inverter, electromagnetic frequency, it's about what your microwave is or your refrigerator. I mean, so we talk about some of these things, but when you actually put it in context to technology that's in your world, not an issue. In terms of anything that would be concerning in the actual materials, these panels have to go through the EPA's leaching test. And so what they do is they grind them into kind of centimeter-sized pieces and tumble them in an acid wash and then test what comes out. And so that's how you know if it's safe to be, say you had a hurricane or a tornado or something. Is it going to be safe if these things get destroyed? And they have to pass that test before they can be deployed and put out into the environment. The other thing that we've been willing to commit to, if there's a really big concern about that, is to provide certificates of that they're tier 1 panels. So you hear some older technology that might have had harmful materials that aren't industry standards anymore. We've provided that to the jurisdiction to show, hey, these certain materials are not in our equipment.
One more question. What about property values? How have these projects affected property values?
Yeah, and that was something we were able to provide at our last meeting. This was a Loyola University research specifically on Midwest solar projects. They looked at 70 different solar projects, some being hundreds of acres of size, and looked at, it's certainly a concern. I think anytime there's any kind of development, not just a solar project, but any kind of development where there's, undeveloped land, what is the impact there? And it looked at actual sales data, actual like Zillow real estate property value next to these projects, and didn't find a significant change there. It also got into some of the academic research in other parts of the country, whether it's New England or other places. And, I get the concern is something's going to be different. So how could that not impact? And it's just not in the data. And so, I'm not going to tell you one thing or another. I'm going to say what the researchers have seen in the actual data of existing projects.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Ma'am.
I know it's not normal, but you said that some jurisdictions would have you put a decibel limit at a property line?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry about that. What level have you seen in the past that you've used?
Yeah, I've seen 55 decibels.
At a property line?
At the property line, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Becker. Item number 2, consideration to authorize the committee of the whole to have power to act at their regular meeting on December 23rd, 2024, on an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to allow large-scale solar in an AG1 agricultural zoning district on a parcel within Section 3, Chalmers Township, McDonough County, Illinois.
And Mayor, if I could extend that and ask council to consider power to act at the 23rd as well as December 30th in the event that additional information is requested. That gives a little bit more leeway, and it, I think, addresses some of the concerns from the residents in terms of the speed of how this is processing.
Alderman Dorsett.
Would it not be more appropriate for the council to give itself power to act next week and then do it again if necessary?
Next week is committee of the whole, so you'd have to give yourselves power to act on the ordinance or power to act on power to act. Your preference. I think either gets us the same place.
Motion to authorize the committee of the whole power to act at their regular meeting on December 23rd or December 30th on an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to allow large-scale solar and AG1 agriculture within Section 3, Chalmers Township, McDonough County.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to grant the power to act. Any discussion? Alderman Dorsett.
Meaning there is no action tonight. There may be no action next week. This gives you another chance, gives everyone a chance to go to the table and talk about this some more, as much due process as we can give you, and more than some have had inside city limits.
Alderman Shute.
I think for those reasons, I'm probably a no here, just so we could set a firmer time for when we actually will, give people some planning. I'm cognizant of the holiday coming up, so people know actually when meetings are. That being said, I do think the company answers has gone above and beyond to get information. So I think a little bit more time to give people an opportunity to ask any additional questions would be appropriate. So the power to act, and it may happen next week or maybe the week after, I don't love so much, so I'm probably just going to be a no on this, in preference that we set a time that we actually do it after the new year. In the meantime, people can plan when the meetings will be, and hopefully those will be respectful and get people's questions answered.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's a motion and a second. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Shu.
No.
Shabazz.
No.
Dorsett.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
2 to 3.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 3, consideration to adopt a resolution to reappoint Mr. Tom Clauden to the Macomb Airport Authority from January 1st, 2025 until January 1st, 2030.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded to reappoint Mr. Clauden to the Airport Authority. Any discussion? And I'd ask the clerk, the city attorney to read the resolution to the record, please.
Thank you. The resolution provides that the Macomb Airport Authority is a taxing municipality in McDonough County, that it includes the city of Macomb, that the state statute provides for five member governing body, two of which are appointed by the presiding officer of the county board, three of which are appointed by the mayor of the city of Macomb. The ordinance does list the current terms of each of the commissioners and provides that Commissioner Tom Clauden, his term expires December 31st, 2024, and he would be reappointed to a 5-year term beginning January 1st, 2025.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shabazz?
Aye.
Dorset?
Aye.
Wynn?
Aye.
Moon?
Aye.
Shu?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 4, consideration to approve a new contract with Baxter Woodman. There's the Public Works Director is going to give us some updated information. This was also discussed at the Public Works Committee meeting on December 5th. Ms. Ortman?
Good evening. As you're aware, we've been looking for a water treatment plant manager for over 3 years now, and we have not had any success finding someone with the right qualifications to relocate to the Macomb area. And in order to stay in compliance with the Illinois EPA, we elected last year to contract with Baxter and Woodman to provide a responsible operator in charge of our water treatment and distribution systems, and they've been doing that for a year. Presumably, we had hopes of being able to fill that position this year. While we were doing that, we were not able to fill that position in-house or externally, and so we are asking for another renewal for another year. We brought the costs down because after this first year, we feel that we don't need them every other week, that every other week would suffice, and that brings the cost down to $6,500 a month from $10,000.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Ortman? Alice, are the provisions of the contract, what's the term? Is there a out clause at all?
Yes, well, so the term is through December 31st of 2025. However, at any point during the year, if we want to terminate the contract, we just have to give them 30 days notice of termination. And that 30 days then allows us to be able to transfer the responsible operator in charge duties to a new person.
Okay, very good.
So that
Any
keeps
questions at all? I'm sorry, Alderman Dorset, I apologize.
It appears to be a cost savings, but by my figures, doesn't this actually increase our cost per visit from Baxter Woodman? My numbers.
I did not do that. I did not do that math.
My numbers would show that they're charging us $2,500 per visit this time, and by cutting that in half, we're going to $3,250 per visit. So we're getting fewer visits, but paying more for each one.
But paying less for the total year. Yes, I would agree. I didn't do the math, but I will take your word that is the case. I just looked at the overall cost for the year as being less. It comes out to about $78,000, I believe.
Any other questions? All righty. I'd entertain a motion to approve the contract with Baxter Woodman.
Motion to approve the contract with Baxter Woodman.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dorset?
Aye.
Wynn?
Aye.
Moon?
Aye.
Shu?
Aye.
Shabazz?
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item number 5, consideration to approve an application for a RAISE, R-A-I-S-E, and that's an acronym, grant for infrastructure needs. We have Miss Jessica Bidenstadt with us to go over the application and what we're hoping to achieve here.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight I am requesting your approval to apply for up to $25 million in funding through the U.S. Department of Transportation's RAISE Grant Program for the fiscal year 2025, Round 2. This grant represents a significant opportunity to secure federal resources to address critical infrastructure needs without requiring any local matching funds. The requested amount reflects a preliminary maximum request amount, allowing flexibility as we refine the project scope during a planning meeting with Public Works, Community Development, and the Police Department. This step will ensure both collaboration across all involved departments and provide us with a more accurate budget for the application. The proposed project will include street, sidewalk, and safety improvements to enhance multimodal transportation connectivity. These upgrades aim to address identified deficiencies, improve access, and foster equity and sustainability in Macomb's infrastructure. By requesting the full $25 million upfront, we eliminate the need to return to council for additional approvals, which could delay the application process. And given the time constraints of our meeting schedules and approaching grant deadline of January 30th, 2025. I understand that the $25 million is a substantial amount, and I want to emphasize that we will likely apply for a lower figure once the project scope is finalized. However, securing this authorization ensures we have the ability to submit a comprehensive application that fully addresses Macomb's infrastructure challenges. Approving this request does not obligate the city to spend local funds or guarantee that the grant will be awarded. Rather, it will empower us to pursue a transformative opportunity to improve safety, accessibility, and multimodal connectivity. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Any questions for Ms. Biddenstat? So just so I heard right, no match.
No match.
Okay. Highly unusual.
Yes.
Grateful.
Yes.
Grateful for that. Any of the aldermen have any questions for Jess at all? We'd entertain a motion to approve the application for a RAISE grant for infrastructure needs in the city of Macomb.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Wynn,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And just to prove that things do happen in a good way, both city administrator, myself, as well as a community partner, the executive director of the Park District, spent 4 days in Washington, D.C. with our friends at the U.S. Department of Transportation, and we heard one success story of a community in Alabama of 2,500 people. $11 million in grants went to them last year. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Item number 6. Consideration to authorize the Macomb Public Transportation acceptance of a WIAA, and I'm going to see if I get this right. It's the Western Illinois Area Agency on Aging. One-time notification of grant award for the Connecting Rural Older Illinoisans. We have the Transit Director, Ms. Calabria, here with us. Can you go over what we're hoping to accomplish here? And sounds like an opportunity for some funds to support transit.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. So staff requests that City Council authorizes the Public Transportation Department to accept a one-time notification grant award from Western Illinois Area Agency on Aging. The grant is called Connecting Rural Older Illinoisans and is in the amount of $13,500. It is a no-match grant, and it goes towards local match funds.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Perino? No? Entertain a motion to authorize us to accept that $13,500.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Wynn,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Calabria. Item number 7, what we've all been waiting for, the presentation from our auditing firm. Presentation from Wormer, Rogers, Duran, and Ruzan, LLC, on the City of Macomb's audit for fiscal year ending in April 2024. We have Mr. Tom Lancaster here with us.
Thanks. And I'll keep it brief, too. So as you mentioned, it's the fiscal year 2024 audit, and really there are two sort of components to the city's audit. You have the financial audit, where we test the financial records and prepare accurate financial statements, and then there's the compliance audit, where you test for compliance with the federal grant programs. Both resulted in no findings, which is the best possible result of the city's audits. So for tonight's meeting, we brought multiple reports. There's the annual financial report or financial statements. There's the single audit, which is issued as part of the compliance audit. There's also the management letter, and then the communication to those charged with governance. That's also referred to as a SAS 114 letter. Rather than go through page by page or reference any specific page numbers, I'll just give sort of an overview. And if there's anything you want to discuss further, please feel free, or we can go into more detail. From the city's audit report, that includes management discussion and analysis. So city's total combined net position is $69 million as of fiscal year end, which is an increase of almost $1.5 million from the previous year. And again, so the net position, that's the amount that the assets and deferred outflows exceed the liabilities and deferred inflows. So the larger the net position, the better. So a net position of just under 70 million would be considered a strong net position. Total cost of the city's programs was just over $25 million. The general corporate account reported a year-end cash balance of $7.7 million. That's about 8 months worth of expenditures. And the city added over $4.3 million in new capital assets during 2024, which consisted mainly of infrastructure and construction on the new water treatment plant. For the single audit, so that's some of the financial highlights. From the single audit, that's the compliance audit. So we go through a risk assessment process. The two major federal programs were the transportation grant and the COVID relief money. It was the transportation grant that we tested. We go through a risk assessment process, mainly driven by the size of the program. So, more expenditures are considered to be more risk. You also have a required amount of coverage you have to get with the testing. So we tested the transportation grant and again had no findings, and that's the best possible result of the single audit. So we determined the district is in compliance with federal grant reporting requirements. We also issued the management letter. The management letter includes a schedule of the accounts that exceeded their budgets for the year. And then finally, the governance letter, so that's also called the SAS 114 letter. That's required communication for every audit. It includes, some additional description of the audit process, but then some additional information also about your responsibility and our responsibility as auditors. Also attached to that is the proposed audit adjustments. So if you wanted to see specifically the proposed audit adjustments, they're attached to that communication. So to summarize, the city's audits resulted in no significant findings and suggest that the city is in excellent financial condition.
Do you all have any questions for Mr. Lancaster? I kind of like the way he ended that high note there.
Screw it up.
I finally learned how to end a presentation after 10 years.
We'd entertain a motion to accept and file the audit report as presented by Mr. Lancaster.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'd just like to note that as is authorized by this council, we'll be seeking new, as a matter of course, not any issue with the current service of our provider, but going out for bids for that. Mr. Lancaster has informed us that his company is downsizing and they will not be in a position to submit a bid. So I'd take this opportunity to thank you for our years of service that we've received from you. It's been highly professional, and I know that our city has transitioned from one business director to another, and speak very highly of the work that you and your colleagues do. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the relationship over the years, too. We really value it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shu,
Aye.
Shabazz.
Aye.
Dorset.
Aye.
Wynn.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
All ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Lancaster.
Thank you.
There is no other new business this evening. Any committee reports? Hearing none. Aldermanic reports. Alderman Moon.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Wynn.
No report.
Thank you. Alderman Dorset.
Nothing.
Alderman Shabazz.
No report.
Thank you. And Alderman Shue?
No report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anything?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Very good job on the swearing in today.
Oh, thank you.
Anything from our township folks? Okay, Madam Attorney?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Coker, you've been quiet this evening.
Good.
Okay.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Council, I would ask for your concurrence in appointing Ms. Loretta Oden to the Equal Opportunity for Housing Commission.
Motion to concur with the mayor's recommendation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to concur. Any discussion? And Alderman Shabazz, we'd maybe suggest you abstain.
Exactly.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, roll call, please.
Shabazz,
Abstain.
Dorset,
Aye.
Wynn,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And Council, now for your consideration to accept with regret the resignation of Sally Egler from the Zoning Board of Appeals with nearly 3 decades of service in that position.
With regrets, accept her.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? And again, our sincere thanks to Mrs. Egler. Hearing on roll call, please. We could probably go with a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. I would like to call an executive session to consider information relative to the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of an employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Open Meetings Act.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Wynn,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. For the members of the media, we'll take about 5, maybe 10 minutes, and then we'll head into executive session.